So I have sick kids this week, and things are not quite going as I had planned, but I am making some preps for the week for food, and so I thought I'd just bring you along to show you what I'm doing in my meal planning this week. I printed off this recipe booklet from Nikki Gets Fit. She does Weight Watchers, and she has a lot of really simple go-to recipes, and we are going to be doing mostly bowls and wraps this week. And I don't know what the wraps, where are they? Oh, there they are. So different wraps, like we're going to be doing this one tonight, and that's basically what our meal plan is for this week. I have some rice going here on the stove, so I will be adding in the minute rice. I usually do jasmine rice, but I had some leftover minute rice, and so I'm actually going to be doing that instead. Then over here, I am doing chicken breast, and I'm gonna grill them in my Ninja. This is a 5-in-1. You can hear it going. It's a little bit loud, but not too bad actually. I don't mind it. And then just inside, I'll lift it up. It's not quite ready, but inside is a grill plate, and I will be grilling these chicken breasts on there. I got these chicken breasts for $1.99 at our commissary, and typically you can find pretty good meat deals there. But I'm just going to go ahead and do the entire pack so that it's ready for any meals that the kids maybe will be able to eat this week coming up. Okay, it is ready to add food, and I just salt and peppered these in the package there. So I'm just gonna put those on there. You don't have to flip them midway through, but if you'd like there to be grill marks on both sides, that's probably what you want to do then. And I am not sure how many of these. Oh, I'm going to be one shy. Oops, ouch. Okay, so I have one left over. So we'll shut that lid. On here is about what you want to do for time-wise. This one right here. So I'm actually going to add time. These are pretty thick, so I'm going to go all the way up to 20. And then we'll just let it go. So while my rice is cooking and my chicken is grilling, I thought I would tell you a little bit about my word for the year and how that's going to play into this channel and my blog and the podcast, and then also just my life, actually more my life than anything else. So last year's word was abide, and it proved to be a phenomenal word and very much divinely inspired. It was something I prayed over, and God just kept dropping these verses about abiding, and people kept saying the word, and I was reading the word and things that I was reading, and I thought, you know, that's the word. And sure enough, that was exactly the word I needed. Abide is one of those words that it's not really an action. It's more of a state of being. And I needed to just always be right where the Lord was and just abiding in Him throughout all of 2022. It just proved to be a year of abiding. More on that in future YouTube videos. But as I was going into 2023, abide had been such a phenomenal word that I was really excited to be praying over what 2023's word would be. And initially, I kind of felt like the word was follow. And I thought, well, that makes total sense. You know, you go from abide to follow. You know, we're abiding in the Lord, and then we're following Him wherever He is. And some things had been made mention of at church about, you know, wherever the Lord is, that's where we should be. And so I kind of was leaning toward the word follow. However, I didn't feel quite as excited about that word as I had been about abide. And I started to wonder if maybe that was not quite the word. I prayed about it. I just asked the Lord to really show me. And boy, did he show me. So over the course of the next week after that, it became quite apparent that my word for 2023 needed to be home. And that sounds like such a simple, innocuous, not really, that great important goal of a word. But God has already shown me how amazing that word is and how important it is and how I have let things slide. I have a whole post on my blog about why I chose that word, and then I have a podcast explaining some other things about the word as well, and how I chose it, and why I choose a word of the year. So I will have those linked in the description for you rather than just rehash that here. But I read a book, Eve in Exile, and I actually just blew through the book in about one day because I was so hungry for what it said in the book. And it is basically showing homemakers a different way. And there's just so much good in there. And there's so much good in there for conservative homeschoolers. I'm going to leave it at that. But within the first couple of chapters, you may find yourself and you may realize you have been going about this the wrong way. So I used to be very connected to my home. I wrote about homemaking all the time on the blog. And then about 4 years ago, my life changed. I go in more depth in the blog post, but I didn't have babies anymore. 4 years ago, I had a 2-year-old. And even though she had some medical needs when she was born, all of those had been taken care of. She was pretty self-sufficient. Everybody else was growing up too. And life became very different for me. And I actually sort of lost my way in the process. And the hard physical labor that I had had for 20 years of my life in the home, raising babies, raising toddlers, all of that used to solidify me to home. It used to make the work that I did purposeful. And as they grew up, I was really lost. And I sort of I began living my life in neutral. I really wasn't going anywhere. I didn't really have any purpose to anything. If somebody pushed me one direction, I'd go that way, but I didn't go for very long, and it was always trying to figure out how to get through, how to get by, how to just get what I needed to get done during the day so that I could go take a break, or so that I could go do something else, anything else. I was barely getting food on the table for the kids. It was not very creative or inventive. It was really just slap it on the table and go. I was eating meals away from the kids. I was just barely functioning as a homemaker. And I was not very fulfilled by all of that. I never felt like I did anything meaningful. I just felt like I had life happening to me. I was running here and there, taking the teens to their jobs and picking them up. I was homeschooling, but we were sort of just going through the motions. There, just on and on and on like that, where there just didn't seem to be a lot of meaning and purpose to what I was doing. And in the book, Eve in Exile, she addresses that life of having so many modern technologies that we have more of a life of leisure, and that this happened to the 1950s housewife. And we look at the 1950s as idyllic, but it gave birth to the 1960s feminist revolution, which we all are just appalled by, So she looks at that in a different way. Rather than seeing the 1950s as idyllic, she shows us why the 1950s gave birth to the feminist revolution, taking the women out of the home, and why women were seeking things outside of the home to fulfill them. And basically it was because as homemakers, they had all these modern conveniences and they were bored. Now, translate that in the conservative homeschool world, and you tend to get the idea that, well, if we take out all those modern conveniences, we will once again have hard work. But there's things missing there. There's pieces missing there. And rather than give you the entire premise of the book, I really want you to read the book. Suffice it to say, that's not the answer. That's not the answer. Sure, you can take some of those modern conveniences away, but we need to live within the time period that the Lord has given us. And we need to reinvent homemaking to a modern world and give it a challenge and give it hard work and give it excellence. And that is something that I had not been doing. So fast forward, here I am, first, second week into January, into the new year, and I'm all stoked about home and my word of the year and what I'm gonna do and what that means. And I'm looking around me because I'm really trying to figure this out, because I have lost so much time, or I've really just marked time for about 4 years. And so I'm really kind of struggling with where do I go, because I can't go backwards. I can't go back to the years where all the kids were little and I controlled everything. I controlled every movement they made. I controlled, when they ate, when they went to bed, all of that. My life doesn't look like that anymore. I have older kids. I have young adults living in the house. I do have little kids. I have lots of little kids still, but the dynamic here is so incredibly different than it was in the time period when I was more focused on home. So I can't go back and recapture that. I can't just try to go back to that life. And that's what over the years I've tried to do, is just like, I want to go back. I'm nostalgic, I guess, and I want to go back. But even exile showed me that I can't go back. I have to go forward from where I am now, and I have to figure out creative ways to make my life as a wife and homemaker and mother and homeschool mom creative, challenging, a way to share the gospel with the world, a way to amplify my husband's mission in this world, and just a way to share Christ and make the gospel palatable in this modern society. We are told to taste and see that the Lord is good. And as women, we tend to be very good at the whole taste and see thing. And that is what we need to be focusing on, and not be so caught up in the mundane and not think that that's all there is to this. The 1950s wife became kind of ornamental. She did not have as many things to do anymore. And so there was, again, more leisure time. She had all these modern conveniences, and she sort of lost her way because there just wasn't the need for survival. She wasn't doing this homemaking thing so that she could survive. She wasn't even working very hard anymore. Most of it was just ornamental. Back in the day, women were working so hard just to survive, and they were the bosses of their home. They were the managers of their home. Their domain was incredibly important because it meant life or death. Well, we don't live like that anymore, and we haven't lived like that for quite some time. And so we need to reinvent what that looks like in the 2020s. So all that said, like I said, here I am, the beginning of January. I'm all excited about this home and what that means, and diving into things, and I'm going to declutter the house, and I'm going to just start down this path. And what do you know? Everybody gets sick with the stomach flu. Isn't that the way this goes? However, I have realized that is a huge lesson to me in all of this, because that is also home. That is also a part of my life. And what am I doing to help my children through the stomach flu? Honestly, I'm not a nurse. I'm not great with sickness. I don't have a very good bedside manner. And I would tell myself that, it was like my excuse or my reason for sort of just doing the bare minimum, just making sure that they had a trash can to throw up in, a blanket to cover up with, and they were watching shows. I was not very motherly because it always seemed like I had something else I needed to be doing. And I found myself this morning, as I was surveying the crowd of sick children, that I needed to do better. I needed to make them comfortable and help them to get well by being there and by figuring out what else I could do for them and just loving on them in this time when they are not feeling well. And that is something that I've not been very good at over the years. But guess what? I can get better. I can do better. And that is what home is all about. I am building something. And I'm really big on building memories. You know, I talk about that a lot with our family traditions and things like that. But I need to be building those memories, those traditions, those important moments, those teachable moments into everything that I do, including tending to sick children. And so I really had my eyes opened today as I watched them, and I, cuddled them up and I took care of them and I figured out what they needed. And I'm starting, making some food so that when they are feeling better, they have some simple things that we can put together for meals. And then also the people who are well also have food to eat. And it is an important job. It is important that I take care of these children and not just make sure I get the bare minimum done, but that I really care for them and that I take care of them, that I manage my home. I love on my children. I love on my husband, and I do the things that God calls homemakers to do. So that's a little bit about where I am right now. This, I hope, will overflow into the YouTube channel and the blog and the podcast, because frankly, I've not had a lot of overflow over the past several years where I feel like anything I'm doing at home makes any sense to put it on the blog or the podcast or the YouTube channel. I just haven't really felt like there's much going on there. And now looking back, I can see why. I can see very clearly why. And so I'm hoping moving forward that as the Lord shows me more about home and what that means for me personally to tend and manage my own home, that I will have a little bit more to share here. So anyway, let's get back to prep work. All right, so the rice is done. Like I said, this is just minute rice, so it's not quite as yummy and creamy as the jasmine rice usually is, but it'll make for some easy rice bowls. So I will just let this cool, and then I will put it into the refrigerator so that it's available to whoever wants it. Okay, there's about 3 minutes left on this, and I thought I would show you what they look like. And that's how they're grilling up. They're nice and crispy. Let me show you. The underneath side does have grill marks. I don't think I'm gonna flip these though. I think I'm just gonna let them be. They are quite thick here, so I am hoping, I will probably have to cut them open, and I'm hoping that they are finished, and you can just hear them sizzling. Okay, so I got the chicken out and I picked one that is one of the thickest, and so I'm gonna cut into it and make sure that it's done. Okay, so it definitely needs a little bit more. And honestly, I could totally just cut these into strips and cook them up, and I may do a little bit of that with this one. Just cut some of these thicker pieces and put them into the air fryer just like that. And so that's what I'm gonna do to make sure that these get done. Okay, this is what I ended up with. I went ahead and chunked everything up. This is the size of the container. It's about an 8 by 8, and I'll just put the lid on it once it's cooled just a bit, let some steam off of it, put it in the refrigerator, and it'll be available for the wraps and bowls that we'll be making this week.